I had known for a very long time that we all lost our hearts. I knew, and I didn't do anything about it. I'm sure many others were the same way. And that's
Be with you when you need to guard you from all harm or dread. I'll follow where you lead. Wherever you go, Jesus shall be my goal. I love you so, I'll give to you my soul. Wherever you are, my guiding star, shall be the magic wand. I'll go with you to the end of the world, like the sands to the world beyond. Greetings, employees, and welcome to our last major training session. Before we begin, I just wanted to say how proud I am to see the wonderful employees that you have grown to be. It seems that just yesterday we had gone over Zayn abnormalities. And now look at you all, ready for any situation that the facility's gonna throw at you. And it has quite a lot in store. Today we're gonna visit one of the last few things Lobotomy Corporation has to challenge you, the Ordeals. Now, I'm sure you might be familiar with the idea of Glyphosate meltdowns. However, in the middle of them, the facility might be subject to events known as ordeals. Ordeals come in a variety of different themes that require different ways to handle them. While the list may seem daunting, it's quite easy to understand each gimmick of the ordeal. The events themselves are categorized by the time of day that they appear, that being dawn, noon, dusk, and midnight, as well as the overall theme they represent, being green, amber, violet, crimson, indigo, and white. Since the categorizations diverge into two sections, we will look at each event by its distinctive theme. Starting with the first of them we have is amber. These ordeals mainly consist of medium to gargantuan worm-like creatures that deal red damage. The first stage of amber is the Amber Dawn, also known as the perfect food. 5 instances of the ordeal will appear in a hallway of each department. Each worm deals a small amount of red damage in fast succession. It's recommended that you bring ranged weapons to deal with the creatures, as tracking their movements in the middle of a fight can prove challenging. Not difficult, but challenging. If you take too long in clearing a hallway of all the worms, they will burrow into the ground and emerge in another department. Once all of them have been cleared, the event will end and the day will continue as normal. The second stage is the Amber Dusk. It's a good time to mention that not every ordeal follows a linear evolution, hence why the noon is absent. The Amber Dusk, also known as the food chain, will spawn a giant worm in a hallway of each department. Their goal is to reach the other end of the hallway that they occupy, dealing considerable red damage to those in its path. This seems familiar somehow. If you manage to deal considerable damage to it, the creature will slow its pace, allowing for the opportunity to strike. If it does manage to reach the end of the hall, it will spawn worms from the Amber Dawn, burrow out, and repeat the process in another hallway. While Lobotomy Corporation does not deny any similarities to O-01-64, this ordeal is not as punishing as the abnormality in question. If anything, it's more infuriating than anything. The fact that it leaves you to take care of its taint trophies is really a testament to the circle of life. Once all the worms are defeated, yes, even the crotch spawn, the event will end. And finally, we have the Amber Midnight, also known as the Eternal Meal. 2 gargantuan worms will erupt in 2 department main rooms, devouring everyone inside. Please be aware that there is very little chance that you would survive, with the only exception being those with heavily resistant red gear and exceptionally high stats. It is recommended that all employees, regardless of level or status, exit the main department rooms before the Eternal Meal spawns. Once the ordeal breaches the ground, they will remain idle for a short time. This allows agents to go ahead and deal some damage to it while it's there. After sitting there and just taking it for a little bit, they're going to begin spawning food chains. Once the food chains leave the vicinity, the Eternal Meal will begin burrowing again and go to another department main room. It's going to be the manager's job once again to direct everybody out of every department main room. Up to 8 food chains can be spawned at once, which means that they're also going to begin spawning once again. It's recommended that you go after all the eternal meals first before going after any of the food chains, simply due to the fact that snowballing is real. Smoke the midnight, smack the dusks, and every single dawn ordeal after that is essentially just fertilizer. And of course, you're doing this all with red damaging weapons and red resistant suits. All in all, the Amber ordeals are very straightforward to handle. They're a lot like termites, except they're out to eat your flesh and the infrastructure. They're just a little bit bigger and all the more a pain in the ass.
Benjamin, what is that you're reading?
Oh, just a bit of an older book. One that's quite a fascinating story of an older faith.
Well, what's it about?
How to summarize it? Well, it details the fall of man. A devil is cast from the afterlife, and so as revenge, he wants to corrupt man themselves before their inception.
I'm not fully understanding of religion. The purpose of people looking toward a figure they have never seen nor heard makes little sense.
Humans seek to place their faith in anything, Angela. Whether they see it or not, it doesn't matter. As long as their faith leads them to happiness, people will worship it, without question.
I have a request. Could you read me this story? I believe I may be able to understand more of what A might want to achieve through understanding men's perspective of their own gospel.
Of course, Angela.
Next, we have the Crimson Ordeals. With the fall of carnival entertainment, these instances seek to revitalize the quote-unquote magic and wonder that would bring those from all walks of life to the parade. While on paper that's a very promising sounding goal, it's less fun to know exactly who is on that guest list. Because it doesn't just include you, it also includes the magical girl that can fire a giant laser beam powered by girl boss energy. Upon the arrival of the Crimson Dawn, or the Cheers of the Beginning, multiple small clowns will emerge from the hallways of the facility. They'll make their way to a randomly selected containment unit, attempting to siphon unique PE boxes from it. Additionally, if the abnormality has a Glyphos counter, the ordeal will attempt to lower it. If it remains long enough, it will take the boxes, lower the count, and potentially succeed in aiding the escape of an abnormality. Now, this wouldn't be so bad if it was something with light consequences, like the warm-hearted woodsman, but I'm sure you can imagine the anxiety that the manager has whenever they see one of them next to the containment unit of nothing there. This will repeat until every instance of the ordeal is subdued. They aren't powerful, hell, they don't even have an attack, but the challenge with them comes at their potential to wreak havoc across the facility. Treat them as #1 priority in certain circumstances, and lower in others. The Crimson Noon is much less interesting in the sense that it's much simpler. An amalgamation of painted faces supposedly reminiscent of clown makeup. Maybe I don't have a good sense of humor, but I don't see what's even remotely funny about this. Well, they're a big guy that roams around the facility and attempts to kill things in its path. Once it's subdued, it will spawn 3 Crimson Dawn enemies around the facility. In all honesty, manager, the only challenge that really comes to dealing with this is you having to play Where's Waldo on the cameras. For the employees, the Harmony of Skin has no attacks from behind, it has no erratic movement. It's a very bare-bones entity that just roams around, killing into the facility. As long as a pair of level 3 or higher agents are sent to deal with it, this thing is easy. The actual challenge with the Crimson Ordeals comes with these bloated abominations. God, went from insane clown posse solo to jackass in the box. Back, I guess? The struggle at the climax involves 2 round creatures that roll around the hallways, dealing damage to those in its path. Once it rolls to one end of the hallway, it rests for a bit. Though it's not just doing nothing, it's actually waiting for agents to pursue it. If you approach it with hostile intent, it will begin counterattacking using melee attacks. Once you've killed Fart the Clown, it will spawn 2 Crimson Noons, which function exactly the same as previously explained. When sending employees to take care of the Crimson Ordeals, it's recommended that you send red protective equipment, however white and black damaging equipment. Of course, pale damage will almost always get the job done, but we know how low those resources are. The main issue that these ordeals bring to the facility are not in the capacity of which themselves can bring harm, but the potential numbers that they have to wreak havoc with. If the manager funnels too many agents into dealing with the Dusk, then the rest of the facility is risking several containment breaches. For those of you at level 4 or higher, move quickly to cover the rest of the facility after dealing with Circles to Freak Show. For employees level 3 and below, make yourselves ready and available in all respects.
Thou art my father, thou my author, thou my being gavest me. Whom should I obey, but thee, whom follow?
The way of the future is machines, everyone. You see them in your departments, you see them in containment chambers, and now you'll also see them roaming the halls of the facility during the Ordeals of Green. Green Ordeals are all themed after some sort of long-forgotten technology with the sole focus of killing. And with such a simple goal in mind, they're also simple to deal with. Starting with a Green Dawn, we have these skeletal-like machines that roam the halls of the facility. When attacking any employee, they use simple, red damaging attacks. However, when they attempt to finish their target, they go a bit overkill on the corpse, which may affect your mental health from viewing such a gruesome scene. Once all the clankers are scrapped, the dawn of green will end. In the next stage of Ordeals, we have the Green Noon, some absolute tanks of machines. These buckets of bulk will slowly roam the facility with a firearm in one hand and a buzzsaw in the other, the latter dealing an aggressively larger amount of red damage. While the previous level of Ordeal didn't necessarily have any recommended resistances, it's heavily requested that the manager only send red-resistant employees to deal with the Green News. Take down the trash cans, then your incident has been resolved. Simple in concept, gory in execution. And then, while you think there would be an upgrade from the bulky models that do a shit ton more damage in the next level of Ordeals, whoever made these things decided that, yep, this is good enough. And so they made portable factories that puke these things out into the halls of unsuspecting employees. 4 of these dispensers will spawn throughout the hallways of the facility. Each of them will fill up a meter on the side that indicates their production cycle. Once the bar fills up, it rolls out 3 instances of either a Green Dawn or a Green Noon. Afterward, the stainless spawn point will enter a cooldown period, then begin producing more Ordeals as time goes on. This cycle repeats ad infinitum until its eventual death. Once all the factories and lower Ordeals are dealt with, the dusk will then end. Here's a fun fact. The Ordeals of Green are the only type of ordeal to contain all 4 stages from dawn to midnight. And here's the final creation of whatever society fell before the New Age and... Really? They made it a dick joke? Alright, let's see what you can do, fella. So this little guy here is the Green Midnight. And this guy is one bulky fella that loves the information department. And spoiler alert, he's also really easy to deal with. Like, the Dusk is harder to deal with than this guy. Like, I'm talking to the manager here. It's so easy. Like, as long as you move all the employees to the elevators at proper times, they'll dodge the giant laser that covers the entire facility. But if you're a cleric, which the manager has no control over, please do your best to use the elevators to your own advantage as well. They do have a staggering amount of health, so the manager is requested to use every possible employee to destroy this thing. Even with using its weakness, it takes a long time to kill. Overall, the Green Ordeals are very simple. They do red damage, they tank hits, and they love going across the entire facility to bring everything back to the Bronze Age. So if you're wielding a black damaging weapon and the manager assigns you to take care of an ordeal, it's safe to assume that you're dealing with some cog-sucking, gear-grinding clay!
Then wilt thou not be loath to leave this paradise, but shalt possess a paradise within thee, happier far.
We live in a society that is constantly trying to understand things that we weren't meant to comprehend. The Violet Ordeal has a theme of somewhat religious importance, as it hints to humanity trying to reach some outer force. The downside of said efforts is that nobody knows what each other is saying. Giant organ-like creatures that contain a currently undecipherable script. While we would love to have the time to actually decrypt the meaning of the language, the main goal of the ordeal is to lower the Qlipoth of every containment unit in the department they spawn into 0. Once that's done, they disappear and leave the aftermath to the manager. They don't deal much damage, essentially just being a giant timer, so manager, be sure to hit the snooze button before the consequences of your actions catch up with you. While it's believed that the higher power sent the fruits as somewhat of a preview to their text, we now have evidence that these beings went to college. Because when it comes to the Violet Noon, they drop these things like it's finals week. When the ordeal starts, a number of monolithic pillars will drop in the main rooms of departments. When they touch down, everything in that room will take a large amount of red damage from the fall, so stay out until you hear the impact from one room over. Additionally, each pillar will deal continuous black damage to any other entity in the room that enters after it drops down. And as if that weren't bad enough, they'll also try to reduce the Qlipoth counter of a random containment unit in that department by 1. Which is kind of a downgrade in comparison to the Dawn, but they did waste most of their WoW factor just from arriving to the function, so it all balances out. Kill them all to end the ordeal, business as usual. And after not being able to get through to us from morning to noon, the unknown entities will finally descend their most sacred texts onto 4 parts of the facility, each with their own unique flavor. You've got strawberry, vanilla, and blue raspberry. By the way, meet blue raspberry. When the Violet Midnight begins, 4 actual monoliths will spawn around the facility, each with a distinct color, function, and set of resistances. Red summons long arms to deal and absorb red damage. White does the same, but wide. Black does the same as red, but black. And pale will summon a giant eyeball that floats to wherever it wants in the facility. Each of the arms they can summon can spawn anywhere around the facility, and taking down each structure will eliminate that attack. However, be aware that at certain points of damaging the objects, they will defend themselves after reaching certain damage thresholds. So the manager will be asked to sort of kite the employees to reduce the casualties. Remember everyone, religion died well before your time, no need to bring it back now. The ordeals of Violet are devastating, yet for some reason don't follow the one trend they set for themselves. For the green ordeals, the game is for it to deal damage and cause as much death as possible. For Crimson, while it's not clear upon the dawn, its main gimmick is to keep multiplying to become a threat across the entire facility. Violet's gimmick is frustrating due to the fact that as time goes on, they completely abandon the Qlipoth lowering gimmick in favor of just doing as much damage as possible. I'd call it an identity crisis, but having a crisis in a crisis would just make it an ordeal. Thank you. I worked really hard on that too. Anyways, for the dawn and noon, use white and pale damage, then for each of the midnight entities, red hates black, white hates pale, black hates red, and pale hates white. Try to memorize that in the off chance of a cold formation. So shall the world go on. To good, malignant. To bad men, benign. Under her own weight, groaning. From here on, the facility may seem less safe to you. As I'm sure you are all familiar, between the hours of 0313 and 0434 are the night in the back streets, in which time the streets are ruled by the sweepers. While it's a widespread phenomenon that happens every day, there is one anomaly that happens here in Lobotomy Corporation where the sweepers appear midday. And thus the Indigo Noon was born. And yes, it's the only event of its kind. Upon the start of the ordeal, 4 groups of 3 sweepers will make their way around the facility and begin to do black damage to all targets in front of them at close range. However, due to our wonderfully crafted facility deterrent systems, sweepers will hurt themselves for the exact same amount of damage that they deal. Everybody please give a huge thank you to our previous safety team captain, Kim Ji-hoon, for taking such lengthy steps to ensure our survival. Upon killing their target, they will begin to consume the corpse and heal any damage they've accrued. Use white and red damage to deter all the sweepers. When you take out all of them, the Indigo Noon will end. It's a weird phenomenon to happen, especially in the city. Life in the city has clearly defined rules, yet it feels like this corporation breaks them by simply existing. Not just with the sweepers, but energy production combined with survival enforcing weapons and armor as a byproduct. We are a company inviting so many questionable things, it's bound to happen.
hate. But what thou livest, live well. How long or short permit to heaven, and now prepare thee for another sight.
Now, I don't want to alarm anyone, but the company may be on the list of some high-profile fixers in the future for our knowledge on energy production. And this will also be during some of the most stressful times at the company, so it's imperative that we go over what we will refer to as the Ordeals of White. The structure of these are slightly different from the standard, much like the Indigo Noon, as there are multiple stages to the Ordeals, those being Dawn, Noon, and Dusk. What separates the Ordeals of White from every other ordeal is that a number of different fixers will arrive at the facility, not just in the Dawn, not just in the Noon, and not just in the Dusk. During the Dawn we'll have 1, during the Noon we'll have 2, and during the Dusk we'll have 4 different fixers in the building at the same time. So in that case, rather than going from Dawn to Dusk levels, as the only difference is the number of entities, we will go over each fixer themselves. Firstly, we have the Red Fixer. They have multiple red damaging attacks, mostly sticking to close range. However, their most dangerous attack is a charged laser that functions similar to the Queen of Hatred, in the sense that it deals massive amounts of damage. Additionally, they'll do a vertical sweep of the facility using that laser just upon their death. As to why they're called the Red Fixer, it's because they only do red damage and they're completely immune to red damage. But their biggest vulnerability is black damage. Granted, it's not a massive one, but it's still their biggest vulnerability. The idea to fight this one is to have people fight him from both sides. They can't hit what they can't see, so exploit the hell out of his charge time. However, the Fixer of White is definitely a more patient combatant. They have multiple range attacks that can reach leaps and bounds across the facility, all of them dealing white damage. These attacks range from long-distance lasers with schizophrenia chemtrails to turning themselves into a self-martyring smoke bomb with powdered dementia. Additionally, upon reaching certain damage thresholds, the White Fixer will begin praying and reflect all incoming damage for a short time. Recommendation is to fight them using pale damage sources, but since there aren't that many, red and black are fine as well. Be aware of what direction she fires in, as the smoky trails the attacks leave can be devastating if forgotten about. The third fixer of the bunch is the Black Fixer, which bears no resemblance to any sort of entity this facility has ever seen. The name of their game is to deal black damage all around them, massively punishing employees that only spec into one specific stat, doing area of effect attacks and massive single target damage to devastate employees for what is to come. As their final gambit is actually to reduce the Clyfoth counter of all abnormalities in its current department whenever they die. Bring red to kill them, and obviously defend against black damage. Finally, the Pale Fixer, the spiffiest looking one of the bunch. Pale damage is extremely dangerous to most employees, so it's recommended that only level 5 or above agents actually go to take care of them. Utilizing high damage and close range attacks, it's highly recommended that employees take a more distance approach to reduce maximum damage received. Be aware of the hallway spanning attack that hits multiple enemies at once as well. Additionally, if they find no employee after some time, they will teleport to a new room in the facility. Finally, be advised of a high damage and close range attack upon their death. It will kill almost anyone that's unfortunate enough to be in its way. When dealing with this fixer, use white damage. While they are something to fear, these ones can only spawn during the Dusk event. But make no mistake, all of these fixers are the pinnacle of non-abnormal foes to face in the corporation. Be on your best performance during the coming days. If there are any more updates to the list, such as missing ordeals, please notify me. And with that, that's all of the ordeals, and thus comes to an end of your training. I'm so glad to have had the privilege of serving as your guide through this company, and you know what? Thank you for all your continued cooperation and for making this place feel like something worth protecting. Let's see these last few days till the end together. Remember, everyone, face the fear to build the future.
And that's where it ends. How did you like the story?
I believe I understand him now.
What do you mean by him, Angela?
My apologies. I understand God. Why he had to cast man from Eden. He made man in his image out of his own choice. Though the devil tempted the humans to doom themselves for eternity, it was God himself who laid the groundwork for these events to take place.
I suppose. That is a broader way to think of it. Though, foreseeing this outcome was surely not how it was planned.
Though, in this literature, is the characterization of God not all-knowing? Surely he saw this coming, yet chose not to act upon the possibility of it happening.
I don't know everything about this religion. However, I read that followers of the faith had coined a certain phrase. God works in mysterious ways.
I find the phrase dismissive. An excuse to blind themselves as to what's happening right in front of them.
Which is probably why it died out.
Then, might I ask, why read literature of a concept that is dead to the world?
Well, it's very simple, Angela.
It's so that history doesn't repeat itself.
It seems like a year since I've seen you, dear. Yet I know it's been only a day. But the hours seem long and the world seems wrong. For it's empty with you away. And I wake from each dream of your loveliness to sink once again into loneliness. And I'd give all the world for just one caress. I'm lonesome. I guess that's all. The faces I see don't appeal to me, for it's your face I long for today. With its dear little smile that makes life worthwhile, for it drives all my cares away. And I dream of your lips and your eyes of blue, and wonder if your heart is lonely too.
I had known for a very long time that we all lost our hearts. I knew, and I didn't do anything about it. I'm sure many others were the same way. And that's okay. We've walked these halls thousands of times. My friends were confined here just as I have been. All for the pursuit of realising her ideal. My apologies will surely fall on deaf ears, but I want to thank you, all of you. Your actions up to this point has let us end this cycle, to finally realise that dream she had. The dream to save humanity from itself. Some here have made sacrifices necessary for this conclusion. I will be one of them, but the rest of you will live on to see the fruits of your labour. For now, I ask you to manage the abnormalities. One more time. This will be my final day working as the manager, and your last day making the world a better place.